Quick disclaimer, information in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be treated as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare team before making changes to your diet, lifestyle, supplementation, or medication.
Big health claims can make for flashy headlines, but are they actually true? Today we're taking a critical look at some of the latest research making waves. Plus, we'll be diving into studies that have further confirmed some simple, natural therapeutic strategies, the latest shift in how obesity is defined, and key nutrient deficiencies you need to be aware of.
Welcome to Type 2 Diabetes Talk, the place where we chat about what really works to treat type 2 diabetes and prediabetes naturally with nutrition and lifestyle. If you're looking to optimize blood sugar and A1C, lose weight, reduce medications, and improve your overall health, this is the place to be. Now, here's your host, Type 2 Diabetes Nutrition Specialist, Dr. Jedha.
Hello there, Dr. Jedha here, and thanks for tuning in to episode 80, where we'll be covering some diabetes research bites and bits. When it comes to research, there are always drug trials occurring, of course, and that's no wonder as the pharmaceutical industry makes billions from diabetes. For prediabetes, the forecast market for prediabetes alone is $599 million by 2030. For type 2 diabetes, the forecast is $69.55 billion by 2032. That's just in the US alone. With the growing popularity of GLP-1 agonist drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, the market is predicted to reach $49 billion by 2030, which is absolutely a staggering, outrageous number. In medical circles, doctors are increasingly using GLP-1 and many of them even believe that these drugs have solved type 2 diabetes. So, in many cases, many doctors and professionals are starting to believe that we don't even need more research due to GLP-1s now being so readily available. I think this is a ridiculous notion, of course. While taking a pill might seem like an easy solution, we spoke about the side effects and risks of taking these drugs in episode 15, and we had a whole medication series back in episodes 15 to 18. Without a doubt, reports of side effects occurring are real and can be very serious, especially in relation to GLP-1s, but they can also occur with any other medication. So while drugs can sometimes be useful, they're not really an ideal long-term solution, and if you can avoid or reduce medication dependency through diet and lifestyle, that's always the better option. That's why we will be focused on covering new and interesting research that focuses on foods, natural supplements, and lifestyle strategies that can help you achieve better results. But of course, not all research is good research, and it's common to see a lot of bad research making big claims across news headlines. So first we're going to dive into a recent study that's been making headlines with some crazy claims like eating this fruit daily can improve insulin resistance in just 4 weeks, or that eating 2 cups a day of this fruit can prevent diabetes. What is this supposedly magical fruit? It's mango. My first line of thinking when I saw this was this sounded absolutely ridiculous. 2 cups of mango amounts to around 40 to 54 grams of carbohydrates and 38 to 50 grams of sugar, depending on the type of mango. In any case, mangoes are one of the highest carbohydrate and highest sugar fruits, so it doesn't make sense logically that eating 2 cups of mangoes a day could prevent diabetes, as that's a lot of carbs and sugar for any person's body to process. So I had to investigate this study closer because with the logic, you can already assume the study has many flaws. The participants were people with overweight or obesity and chronic low-grade inflammation, and the researchers hypothesized that the mangoes would improve their inflammation status, which would improve insulin sensitivity. The study indicated that there was an improvement in insulin sensitivity, but it wasn't due to improved inflammatory status, as that didn't change. The reality is, mangoes can't be acclaimed as the next miracle cure, as this study practically demonstrated nothing. So let's look closer at a few of the study flaws. Firstly, the control group consumed Italian ice, which is a sugar-laden frozen dessert, basically an ice cream with no fibre or polyphenols. So it's very difficult to compare that to intake of a natural fruit that does contain fibre and polyphenols. It's just not a good comparison. And of course, you would expect that the people eating mangoes would have a better outcome, right? It's also unclear what the overall dietary intake of the participants was, as no dietary intake data was provided. Plus, the participants in the mango group were advised to eat other high polyphenol foods, but the study didn't specify which foods exactly or again report any dietary data. And what this means is that any improvements in insulin sensitivity could have been due to other dietary factors. The results reported no effect on blood glucose, which is interesting because if insulin sensitivity truly improved, we would expect to see some improvements in glucose levels in an oral glucose test as well, but nothing changed there. And it didn't change for fasting glucose levels either. So this raises questions about the observed changes. The study also had other flaws, and it should also be pointed out that the study was funded by the National Mango Board, and that raises concerns about potential biases in study design and interpretation. So the takeaway here is that these clickbait news headlines we often see, such as this claim that eating 2 cups of mango per day prevents diabetes, it's highly misleading. The high sugar content of mango makes it a very unlikely candidate for diabetes prevention. Now, the fact that a person who eats more mangoes would eat other nutrient-dense or polyphenol-rich healthy foods, well, yes, overall, that might suggest diabetes prevention was more likely. But this study in particular was a straight comparison of mangoes compared to a sugar-laden frozen dessert with no fibre or polyphenols. And of course, mango is the better option in that scenario. But that doesn't mean it's some magic fruit for diabetes prevention. It just means it's not as bad as ice cream. So I wanted to share this study so you can see that not all research is good research. And in fact, there's a lot of poor research making news headlines and misleading the public. You've always got to have a few radars on when you're surfing the Wild West Web. And if you're one of our members, your best source of information is the Members Library, which has over 500 resources, and we're always growing these. And these resources cover all types of foods, blood sugar topics, supplements, and all the best strategies you can rely on and trust to help you get the best results with your blood sugar and achieve the best health possible.
Are you ready to take charge of your diabetes health? Dr. Jedha's T2 diet program has been clinically proven in a randomized controlled trial to dramatically reduce A1C, weight, and medications in just 16 weeks. The T2 diet program will guide you step by step to discover an eating plan that feels natural and sustainable for you, and most importantly, works to get results. Learn more and join the program today at type2diabetestalk.com/programs.
Moving on, there's been another headline travelling around about the new plant-based pill that could change diabetes. This study was about berberine, which has a lot of previous research for its benefits, and we covered that research in episode 21 and how it can help with lowering glucose levels, fasting glucose, A1C, and improving insulin resistance. It is a very effective supplement. This new research was investigating a new formulation that binds berberine to a type of acid which was supposedly designed to enhance its bioavailability and absorption. The previous research on berberine is all very impressive, and it is a supplement we certainly recommend, and it's been shown to be as effective as metformin in clinical trials. The results of this new trial aren't as good as some of the previous studies, and they don't demonstrate that this new formula is any better than current berberine formulas. So the fact of that matter is that they will need more trials and better comparisons before establishing whether this is in fact a new and improved way of delivering berberine. But again, berberine is a fantastic supplement for T2 and prediabetes, and we will leave more info about berberine in the show notes, or you can listen to that in episode 21 as well. There was a new systematic review and meta-analysis that found that drinking herbal tea reduces fasting blood glucose and A1C, along with total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. Of course, we know something as simple as drinking tea can be particularly powerful to support better health and for lowering blood sugar, and we covered some of the best teas to drink in episode 53, which is now one of our most popular episodes. While I won't go into details on this new tea study, I wanted to emphasize that it really is small, simple things done consistently that make all the difference. And something as simple as drinking herbal tea can help improve your blood sugar, cholesterol, and your overall health. Another important report that emerged earlier this year was a big shift in how obesity is defined. For years, body mass index, or BMI, has been the go-to measure for obesity. But here's the problem. It doesn't distinguish between fat and muscle or consider where fat is stored. And we knew it was a poor measure because even athletes were classified as obese using this simplified BMI definition. Instead of just BMI, this new approach recommends looking at a variety of factors. Waist circumference, fat around the belly because that matters more than total weight, as visceral fat, that fat that's stored around your organs, is far more dangerous than fat stored in other areas like your arms, your butt or your legs, for example, the subcutaneous fat. Then there's waist to hip ratio, which compares belly fat to overall body shape, which is a very important consideration. And we also have waist to height ratio, which is a better predictor of metabolic risk than BMI. And of course, we can get direct body fat measurements from tools like DEXA scans, but using these new measurements, instead of just BMI in solo, we can get a much better picture of a person's overall metabolic health. So this is certainly a step in the right direction, and we'll include more about these measurements and how you can use them in the show notes alongside this episode. But interestingly, there are potential downfalls to this new diagnostic criteria as well, because while it's meant to improve care, sometimes these things can lead to more unnecessary medical treatments, just like we've seen with over-medicalisation of prediabetes, something we discussed in episode 69. And this new criteria, it creates two categories, preclinical obesity and clinical obesity. And the new criteria suggest early weight loss interventions for preclinical obesity, which sounds good, but does that mean more people getting pushed onto medications instead of focusing on nutrition and lifestyle changes? Let's hope that's not the case, but only time will tell. Again, you can find info on that waist circumference, waist to hip ratio, and waist to height ratio on our website, so you can make these simple assessments on yourself as well. Before moving on to our last piece of important research, let's hear a testimonial from one of our members.
Beverly said, "Thank you for all your help and info. I have been following your diet plan since the day after I found out I was a diabetic. I feel great. I've lost 24 pounds, and the inflammation in my hips and back has decreased. Your website gave me so much helpful information, more than my doctor gave me."
The last piece of important research that I wanted to highlight was a study that emphasised that many people with type 2 diabetes are walking around with multiple and significant nutrient deficiencies that may be impacting blood sugar, energy levels, and overall health. Your body needs essential vitamins and minerals to function properly, and the study found that nearly half of the people with type 2 diabetes have multiple deficiencies with key nutrients like magnesium, vitamin B12, vitamin D, zinc, and iron deficiencies. So these are all essential nutrients that our body needs to function properly. And for T2 and prediabetes, these deficiencies can obviously make blood sugar management more difficult. Let's just look at these nutrients a little bit more closely. Magnesium, which we covered in detail in episode 48, this is crucial for insulin regulation and glucose metabolism. A deficiency can worsen insulin resistance and blood sugar control and increase your risk of diabetes complications. Vitamin B12, this can often be depleted by long-term metformin use, and deficiency can lead to nerve damage and fatigue, constipation, depression, and irritability. Vitamin D, it supports insulin production, helps combat insulin resistance, and helps regulate hundreds of genes throughout our body. Deficiency can worsen insulin resistance, increase oxidative stress and inflammation in the body's cells, and make blood sugar control harder. Zinc, it's essential for immune function, wound healing, and blood sugar metabolism. So deficiency increases risk of infection and slows wound healing, and again, makes blood sugar control harder. And iron is vital for oxygen transport and metabolic function. Deficiency impacting blood sugar control, inflammation, and energy levels. So again, these are all essential nutrients that are very important to the functioning of our body and to blood sugar management. So a combination of factors can contribute to these nutrient deficiencies in diabetes. Firstly, the modern Western diet is full of poor food choices and quite simply, processed, high carb, high sugar foods that lack essential nutrients. Over time, what happens? That leads to nutrient deficiencies. We can see medication interference. Metformin, again, for example, reduces B12 levels over time in a large percentage of people. Then there's things like chronic inflammation and metabolic dysfunction in type 2 diabetes that can play a role in reducing the body's ability to absorb or retain essential nutrients. But one of the most important factors is that in a state of high blood sugar and high insulin levels, the body's cells simply have poorer nutrient uptake and increased nutrient losses. And this can lead to deficiency in these essential micronutrients. There have been previous studies highlighting nutrient deficiencies being more common in diabetes, but this study found almost half of people have multiple nutrient deficiencies, and while that's serious and concerning, it is fixable. It emphasises the power of nutrition and that a quality nutrition plan is essential as the foundation of diabetes management, as it helps to provide your body with all the key nutrients it needs to function at its best and avoid these deficiencies. And of course, if necessary, you can consider supplements to help boost levels. The key takeaway here, people with type 2 diabetes and prediabetes need to focus on nutrition as a priority, something we've been helping people do for over a decade. To find out more about these deficiencies, food sources and supplements, head to the show notes for more info. And if you're one of our members, you can find detailed food lists and resources inside the members library alongside episode 80. As we've seen from today's exploration of research-based news headlines, not all research is good research, and just because a flashy headline claims something doesn't make it true. Don't believe everything you read or hear. You've got to dig deeper, think critically, and focus on evidence-backed strategies, getting trusted advice from places like this podcast, our website, or our members library where you can. I've been doing this a very long time, and I want to emphasize that when it comes to T2 and pre-diabetes, nutrition and lifestyle always come first. It is incredibly powerful to help you achieve and maintain optimal blood sugar and health. Find more resources alongside this podcast on our website, and members, you can find those detailed food lists, insights and resources alongside episode 80 in the members library. That's all for today. Until next week, take care. Dr. Jedha, over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to Type 2 Diabetes Talk. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. And for episode replays, episode notes, and more, visit type2diabetestalk.com. New episodes are available Tuesdays, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, or your time zone equivalent. Thanks again. We're truly grateful to be a part of your life and help make a real difference.